All right, let's dive into the works of the historian Flavius Josephus, and specifically into the incredibly treacherous court of King Herod. We're about to unravel a dark and twisted story of family, fear, and poison. And this story, it doesn't start on a battlefield. It starts with a death in the family, a suspicious death that's about to blow the kingdom wide open.
So the whole thing kicks off with the death of Pheroras, who is King Herod's own brother. And right away, the air is just thick with rumors. The first report that reaches the king is blunt, and it's absolutely grim. Pheroras was poisoned, and the person they're blaming, his own wife.
Okay, before we get any deeper into this tangled mess, let's get our cast of characters straight. At the very center of it all, you've got King Herod himself, the guy that we're actually trying to kill. Then there's his brother, Pheroras, whose death starts this whole investigation. The main bad guy here is Antipater, Herod's oldest son, and he's got his mom, Doris, helping him out. And finally, Pheroras' wife, who gets stuck holding the poison. Now, if you want to understand this story, you have to watch the dynamic between the son, Antipater, and the brother, Pheroras. That relationship is the key to everything.
So, here's the first official story that lands on Herod's desk. It seems clear enough, but as we're about to find out, it's totally misleading. The report says that his sister-in-law got the poison from some woman in Arabia, and get this, she passed it off as a love potion. Herod hears this, and he just snaps. He reacts with that terrifying speed he was famous for. He doesn't wait for a trial. He doesn't wait for any more investigating. No. He immediately has the maidservants and other women of the court rounded up and tortured to get the truth out of them.
And, it's under these absolutely horrific circumstances that the official story starts to crack. Amid all that pain and fear, the investigation takes a huge, unexpected turn. The simple answer Herod was looking for, it gets completely shattered.
Right in the middle of her torment, one of the servants just screams out this curse, and it's a bombshell of an accusation. She isn't blaming Pheroras' wife. No, she is pointing the finger straight at Doris, the mother of Herod's own son, Antipater. And that one single cry completely changes the direction of this entire investigation.
So now they're pulling on this new thread, right? And what they find is shocking. Herod's son Antipater and his brother Pheroras, they weren't rivals. They were allies. They'd been having these secret meetings, drinking together late at night, making sure no one was around to hear what they were plotting. The conspiracy was so much closer to home than Herod ever could have dreamed.
And this, of course, brings up the most chilling question of all. Why? Why would Antipater, the guy who's next in line for the throne, plot to kill the very king whose crown he was about to inherit? Well, the answer turns out to be a pretty toxic cocktail of fear and ambition.
Okay, so this is where we really get inside Antipater's head. He's complaining to his mother that he's getting gray hair, while his dad seems to be aging in reverse. He's genuinely afraid he's going to die of old age before he even gets a chance to be king. Then you've got his nephews, the sons of other family members Herod had already executed. He calls them heads of Hydra, convinced they're just waiting to challenge him. And maybe the final insult? Herod had decided that after Antipater, the throne wouldn't go to one of his sons, but to a half-brother. His own kids were being cut out completely.
And wow, if you want to know how he really felt about his father, just listen to this. This is what the servants heard him say. He saw Herod not as a dad, but as a wild beast, a murdering tyrant who made it impossible to even love someone openly. From his point of view, he was trapped, and conspiracy felt like the only way out.
All right, so we've got the who and the why. Now let's talk about the how, the actual weapon. Because this wasn't some impulsive act. They had a really careful, elaborate plan to get this poison into the palace without anyone noticing. Check this out. The poison's path is like something from a spy thriller. It starts way over in Egypt, sourced by a friend of Antipater. Then, it's carried to Judea and handed off to Antipater's uncle. The uncle then delivers it to Pheroras, who's basically supposed to be the trigger man. And finally, Pheroras gives the box to his wife for safekeeping. See what they're doing? Every handoff creates another layer of separation, all designed to protect the guy at the top, Antipater.
So now Herod knows almost everything. He summons the final link in the chain, Pheroras' wife. He demands that she bring him the box with the poison. Her response is, well, it's as shocking as it is desperate.
So, instead of just handing over the evidence, she tries to kill herself by jumping off the roof of the house. But here's the incredible part. She survives the fall. Josephus actually credits the providence of God. The king immediately has her cared for, and as soon as she's conscious, he's there demanding to know why she did it.
Herod gives her an oath, basically an ultimatum. Tell the truth, you live.
Lie, and you'll be torn to pieces. And with that, she finally confesses everything. She reveals her husband Pheroras's dying words. He had seen Herod weeping by his bedside, and he was just overcome with guilt. He realized he had been plotting against a brother who actually loved him. And his final command to his wife was to take Antipater's poison and destroy it.
She explains that she did what her husband asked. She threw most of the poison into the fire. But then she admits she saved just a little bit for herself. And her reason is absolutely chilling. She kept it, in her own words, out of my fear of thee, meaning King Herod. I mean, what a terrifying statement about the kind of fear he inspired in his own family. So there it is. Herod now has a full confession, a key witness, and the actual poison as physical proof. He has everything he needs. And his response is going to be swift, it's going to be severe, and it's going to completely reshape the future of his kingdom. Now that the main plot is exposed, it's like pulling a thread on a sweater. The whole thing starts to unravel. More interrogations happen, and they've revealed the treachery ran even deeper than they thought. It turns out another of Herod's wives, Mariamne, also knew about the whole thing. The consequences are devastating. As punishment for Mariamne's complicity, Herod's vengeance falls on their son, who was also named Herod. He literally just erases the son's name from his will. This was the very grandson he had picked to rule after Antipater. In an instant, the entire line of succession is rewritten by a betrayed king.
You know, this whole sordid affair really gets at the tragedy of Herod's reign. It shows that his legendary paranoia, well, it wasn't completely unfounded. In a court with absolute power like his, the most dangerous threats weren't coming from foreign armies. They were coming from the ambition and fear brewing within his own bloodline. Which leaves us with a pretty timeless question, doesn't it? When your greatest enemies are your own family, can a throne ever really be secure?